Hey folks, I'm Brendan, and you're watching the Overqualified Henchman. So, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 comes out this week. I'm a fan, I'm excited. I understand that not everybody thinks it's the best Marvel movie we've gotten so far, and fair enough. Some people also think it's the best Star Wars movie we've gotten so far. Bam! But seriously, let's bring it in. I was inspired by looking at some of my old comics a few weeks ago, and it seemed like this would be a great opportunity to look at the first time that this lineup of characters teamed up in the comics, which is what I'll be doing next week. I kind of want to see the movie first, see if there's any in-jokes I should touch on or references I want to make sure to explain. That actually works out well though, because to understand that story, you have to know about what happened right before it. So this week, I'm going to be doing a quick and dirty recap of the stories that redefined the cosmic side of Marvel. Annihilation and Annihilation Conquest. At the same time the heroes on Earth were having their civil war over the Superhero Registration Act, space was blowing up, possibly imploding. I'm not a physicist and space is confusing. This massive fleet called the Annihilation Wave, led by Annihilus, obviously, had punched its way through into the main universe from the negative zone and was just destroying everything. Imagine the bugs from Starship Troopers plus the Zerg from StarCraft and a little bit of the Yuuzhan Vong from the Star Wars EU, basically just chitin and lasers. And nothing could stop them. Galactus, Devourer of Worlds, in chains. Richard Rider, this guy, he ended up being the last Nova Centurion. The rest of them just gone. And he took the entire Nova Force in on himself, which even with the World Mind in his helmet helping him out is just crazy. That's a crazy thing. Who even does that? And all the former heralds of Galactus, they all teamed up. Which ones? All of them! I'm talking Silver Surfer, Terex, Firelord, everybody. They're dripping power cosmic out of their ear holes. Not even all of them have ears. And there's still not enough. Ronan the Accuser and Kl'rt the Super Skrull, he's the one with all the Fantastic Force powers, they teamed up. And they're like genetic enemies. The Kree and the Skrull, they hate each other. But they had no choice. They gotta team up, because otherwise everybody gets wiped out. The Annihilation storyline was crazy, because it reached way back into the vaults for like every space character that they still had the license for. People nobody had heard about for decades, like some loser named Peter Quill. Apparently he used to be called Star-Lord or something, but he'd been through some stuff, and now he was all grizzled, and he had a robot eye. He ended up basically acting as Nova's second in command, kind of his XO, and it all came down to him, Nova, and Phyla-Vell, that's the daughter of Captain Mar-Vell, facing off against Annihilus, who had the Cosmic Rod and the Quantum Bands. See, Drax's story had managed to kill Thanos, the Mad Titan. Everyone was like, hey Drax, we got this other thing going on, the Annihilation Wave, maybe focus on that? But he was all, no, my whole thing is fighting Thanos and not wearing a shirt. But the upshot was that had managed to free Galactus, and in the ensuing Celestial beat-em-up, the Cosmic Bands had been mostly drained of power. Still, the Bugman was beating the ever-living tar out of Nova, even with the entire Nova Force at its disposal. Even though she was way out of her weight class, Phyla-Vell jumped in and distracted Annihilus long enough for Nova to regroup, and realized that the only gap in Annihilus's armor was his mouth. So he shoved his fist right down Annihilus's throat, grabbed his intestines, and this is for the Nova Corps! Yeah! It's a really good storyline, guys. It's one of my favorites. You should check it out. I'll put some links down below. Now, in the aftermath of the Annihilation Wave, everybody was rebuilding. And since Peter Quill is kind of a smooth talker, he was doing a lot of the negotiations, a lot of the diplomacy. So he brings in these guys called the Space Knights, or, knights in space. And he says, hey everybody, these are the Space Knights. They're like knights in space. They're cool. And since he's a war hero and everything, everyone's like, well, hey, if Peter Quill says these guys are cool, come on in. Unfortunately, what nobody knew at the time was the Space Knights had been taken over by the Phalanx, who are this evil techno-organic robot race who are obsessed with converting all organic life. They're kind of like the Borg. So it turned out to be some classic Trojan horse stuff. They got in past the defenses and took over the Kree homeworld and started, building towers out of twisted bodies and all kinds of gross stuff, including assimilating anybody they came across with powers or special skills, including, unfortunately, Nova and Gamora. You might have heard of her, deadliest woman in the universe. Nova and Gamora actually have this pretty serious romance thing going on in the comics. I ship it. Meanwhile, Phyla-Vell had taken the Quantum Bands from Annihilus to become the new Quasar, and she and her girlfriend, Moondragon, that's Drax's daughter, have been fighting the Phalanx, and at one point Moondragon gets turned into an actual moon dragon, resulting in basically the most metal image in comics ever. Getting back to Peter Quill, this is kinda all his fault. I mean, not really, but, he feels responsible, understandably. The Kree certainly think it's his fault. They're big on, accusing, and they throw him in jail, but they're good enough to, in the process, fix his eye and recreate a bunch of his old Star-Lord gear. Why? Well, because they want him to lead a Suicide Squad team of other characters they've got locked up behind enemy lines. And this is how Star-Lord meets the incomparable duo of Rocket Raccoon and Groot. He also meets a bunch of other characters, but we're not going to spend a lot of time on them because, suicide mission. It doesn't go great. Anyway, the day is saved, Ultron is defeated. Did I not mention that Ultron was there? It was a whole thing. He was controlling the phalanx. Ooh. But if Annihilation was like somebody burning the house down, then Conquest was like somebody throwing a kegger in the ruins and not cleaning up afterwards. It was pretty clear to everybody that the universe was not going to survive a round 3. And since he was still feeling pretty lousy about the whole thing, Pete decided that it was his responsibility to come up with a way to make sure that didn't happen. Which is where we'll pick up next week. Thanks for watching. Again, I'm really not doing these stories justice in such a short amount of time. Check out those links below, read them for yourself. While you're down there, you could maybe, click the like button, click the subscribe button, leave me a comment, I'm just saying. You could also check out my channel for other videos about comics and assorted nerdery. Until next time, keep on henching, and may you too get to rip out your enemies' intestines through their mouth. Live the dream.